Welcome to Been There, Done That, a podcast we launched to talk about raw, unfiltered founder stories. We listen to so many podcasts ourselves, and we figured that most of them talk about success stories after they happened. And facts and figures get distorted, plus strategies that worked 10 years ago don't work today anymore. We at Ivor wanted to launch something that tells raw, unfiltered founder stories today. And we believe we're in a unique position to do this because every year we support 35 founders to build $10 billion plus companies. We do that as founders ourselves. 40% of our full-time team have launched companies valued between 100 million and 10 billion. Therefore, we want to talk founder to founder with people on how they got from zero to $1 million ARR or from zero to a seed round. You listening to Been There, Done That. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to this latest episode of the Ivor podcast, Been There, Done That. My name is Petter Maid. I have 25 years in fintech, and I built a company called SumUp, valued at 10 billion, hopefully IPOing this year, fingers crossed. Now I spend my time coaching startup founders as a full-time partner at Ivor. And speaking of which, today I have with me here Allegro Sprute. I've been coaching you guys for over a year now, and going. This is like really going back and reminiscing to the early days. Allegro. So when we first met, and I remember the first coaching calls, you guys were really early with the product, but you were really testing out the market in terms of sales. And so you and of three founders, two of you were out there more or less selling full time. Can you talk to us a little bit about what was on your mind there, and what was the signal that you were getting from the market from those early sales experiments?
Yes, first of all, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, pleasure to talk to you. I think the early times, one thing that I cared about a lot is that we're not building a solution in search of a problem, right? So I didn't want to start building and then get the product out there and find out that nobody wants it. So we decided we do it the lean startup way. I think this is a lean startup playbook. We decided to go out and start selling a product that we didn't have at the time. And we decided to do this with all the kinds of companies, right? At that point, in the early beginnings, we didn't have any kind of ICP or so. We just said, okay, we're going to talk to everybody and see who loves it the most, who wants it the most, and who's willing to pay the most amount of money. And we did this, for quite some time. We knew that there were a bunch of companies that wanted the product. And then in the end, ended up in a situation where, of course, we had to build it, right? And a different kind of challenge, right? I think it's always an amazing feeling that you're building something and there's actually somebody who's waiting for it and wants to use it. At the same time, it puts quite a lot of pressure on the entire team because they need to ship and ship very fast. And there's basically all the time the feeling that whatever you're doing right now should have been done like weeks ago. And but this was the early beginnings. And I think this was exactly the time when we started talking. Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, Allegro is building a company that is building a conversational AI training for salespeople. So trying to make salespeople more professional, being able to pitch better, more confidently. I remember in the beginning we were talking about kind of leveling up and having different programs where they would have to go through increasingly difficult sales training scenarios where they would really have to build on their skills to be able to get the customer to engage, and also I guess to listen to the problem. I remember we were also talking about very early on that you and Tim, your co-founder at that time, had very different approaches in sales. Maybe you can speak a little bit to this, because I think it's interesting for the audience to hear a bit about two different, both successful sales approaches of how you can actually do enterprise sales.
Yes, absolutely. I think there's really, in our case, there was no right or wrong on how to do sales. Yeah, like you said, we had really different approaches. For Tim, it was really the hardcore cold calling, and trying to reach as many people as possible, trying to also reach many different contacts within a large account, and try to get in there, right? Try to get meetings. For me, since at some point we decided to mainly sell to enterprise, I realized that what worked really well for me is building very strong relationships and having a clear top to bottom approach. So I really try to get to people in management positions, board positions, and I always found a way to find these people and talk to them. I went to conferences. I tried to get jump from intro to intro just to get an intro to this specific person, right? And it's definitely an approach that took more time. I had less meetings than Tim, but when you got there, the conversion rate was quite high, right? And I would say I wouldn't say one of us had more success than the other one. In the end, it leveled out. But what mattered was that everyone found their way of what he felt more comfortable with and where he had more success. And this is how we did it, and it worked for us.
Yeah, this is the way. Yeah, I mean, I remember when you described kind of what you were doing, we sort of coined that term contact hopping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where you'd kind of get someone to want to help you. I mean, you have this approach of where you ask for advice and help. Hey, I'm building this company. We think it's valuable for your sales training department. Are we doing the right thing? Can you give me some feedback? I mean, this sort of lowers the barrier where they're not being sold to, but in fact they're being asked to participate and to give their advice. And this sort of has this psycho behavioral almost feeling that I gotta help Allegro. He's asked me for help, and I think that is the genius behind this contact hopping method, because you finally work your way in the organization to the stakeholder. You get a champion, probably the person that you initially talked to, and then you get the second meeting where you can then actually give them the proposal, right?
It's right. I think the only thing that I realized at some point where we needed to be careful is that, especially in larger corporates, so either you get in because you have some kind of contact somewhere in the organization, or you approach them at a conference or so, and they're already close to the department that you wanted to talk to anyway. But if you don't have any contact, then you do typical cold outreach, right? And it's we realized over time that there are specific teams, right? It be it the innovation team or some teams called transformation or whatever. They are really keen to try out new stuff, right? And I believe that on one hand, this was very valuable for us because there was someone who was always open to have a first call with us, and of course it felt good, and there's a data point. Okay, they're interested, whatever. But I think especially in a time where topics like AI are super hot, and especially corporates want to learn more and find ways to implement that technology into their processes. As a founder, you have to be careful, because should you treat this as a positive data point, yes or no? Of course, it is a good signal that they want to talk to you, but in the end, it matters do you actually get to close a deal here? And if you get to close a deal, are they doing a little pilot with you? If it's 20K, 30K, this is good money, right? But is it for a large corporate? How much is it really, right? And then I think that the real data point is, in the end, do you actually get them to roll out, to sign a larger deal. And this was the thing with these innovation and transformation departments, where it's always a good way to get in, but it's always the question, is this really the kind of signal that you should judge as like a positive signal, or where you should be a bit careful?
Do you get past the design partner stage? That's the key there, right?
Exactly.
And I think once you guys got into the actual training departments in these big corporates that you were going for, I mean, you were swinging for some really big logos, right? That's right. And getting them on board, which was I think validating that you were solving an actual problem that was keenly felt by the companies, but that they were also, you know, willing to roll this out in the organization. And I think in the beginning we talked about, so are they replacing their trainers, or are they creating the convenience that everyone can train whenever they want without having to sort of fall into the schedule of these trainers? Because salespeople should be out meeting customers, right? And having everyone being in the building to do a course at the same time is obviously something which is extremely costly, and just breaking up their rhythm of how they want to be selling. So there's a lot of positives there, but what was the feedback? What was kind of the biggest problem? Like, that's the problem, that's what we're solving, and that's why they're willing to bring us on board. What was that sort of aha moment?
The messaging definitely changed over time, right? And over time we learned more and more about what people really cared about. And of course, it really depends on who are you talking to. Because if you're talking to the training department, maybe to the head of training, whatever, they care about something very different than if you're talking to a sales manager. Maybe in some companies it's a sales manager who's in charge of training the sellers, right? And then they look for different things. What we realized is every solution out there that offers training for sellers, they focus on the training. They focus on, you have to finish a course, or you have to, I don't know, tick all these boxes, and then, I don't know, when you've done all these courses, then you're done, and you have to watch these videos and do this quiz at the end and whatever. And the reality is, no one wants this, right? It's and it doesn't matter if it's in sales or in whatever part of life. You want to become better at your job. This is the goal. You want to become better at your job. You want to do a better job. You want to close more deals. You want to do this as a seller. Your sales manager wants you to close more deals. This is the goal. Training is basically the inevitable path to get there, right? You either do learning by doing, and it will take you many years until you've basically experienced every situation and you have a very good feeling, intuitive feeling on how to do things. But in the beginning, you have to do a lot of training to have this jump in your skill set as fast as possible in a steep learning curve. And this is what we're optimizing for today. It's really not you spending time doing training, but shortening the time that you need to invest into training, and trying to make each minute that you invest into it so impactful that with short invested time, you still reach the same goal than with other solutions out there, or with a trainer coming in and doing the sessions.
It's a little bit like public speaking or going to the gym. It's repetitions. Yeah. Like you wanna be subject yourself to the different scenarios, and you wanna practice in those scenarios how to get to the positive outcome of that meeting, right? And that's the thing. Like, it's not, there are some people that are maybe natural salesmen, some are better than others and so on, but there's, exactly as you say, when you're not doing the real thing, you're training for doing the real thing. And that's what your solution actually gives them, the ability that they can train more under more lifelike kind of circumstances.
100%. And I think when I look back in like how people judge the success of our product, many sales leaders said, okay, we're just going to look how much time sellers spent in your product.
That's not a good metric.
Exactly. It's not, right? And I think it makes sense that people think that. And I think especially with traditional training methods, this was the way to do it, right? They were like, I don't know, the videos and courses, and you just check how much is this being used. But this is not what we're optimizing for. In the end, the only thing that matters is, did your conversion rate improve or not, right? And you want the people to, of course, invest time into the training, otherwise it wouldn't work. But it's not like, if I would optimize for the total duration that they spend on our product, I would also offer videos. This is not what it's about. It's about improving the user ROI every minute that they invest into it.
Yeah. I think we talked a lot about dashboards and kind of showing also the buyer or the stakeholder the results of the training. But even doing that within the tool, it's, what does that tell you? You just said it yourself. At the end of the day, it's the conversion rate. Like, how are they selling?
Yes.
What does that look like over time? That's also kind of a bit of a challenge for you guys as well, because that's information that you would like to have in your product, in your dashboard, to then combine kind of the view of the training with the actual result, showing a composite of, well, you put in the hours here and look, you improved your results there.
Yeah.
And tying those two together is kind of your challenge, that I think that if you can solve that challenge, then the price model becomes something different, because then created value, you can take a slice of that value, as opposed to charging by the hour or right? Yeah.
No, it's right. It really depends on the type of company that we work with. With smaller companies that we're now working with more, especially like mid-market, you do find companies that really record all of their sales calls, especially in like cold outreach. You still have, since we're in Germany here, right? So you have many teams that do not record it. It's not allowed. So there it's a bit more tricky, right? Because we don't get like the transcripts and like the real outcomes into our product. So it's a bit harder to find out, okay, if someone used our product to become better in a specific type of situation, maybe specific type of objections or so, were they able to apply it, right? We're missing the proof point if we don't have access to the transcripts. And this is of course oftentimes the case with the very large companies. In service it's different, right? But if we're talking sales, they typically record like calls that are later in the funnel, but especially very early, the cold ones typically not recorded. So here's a bit of a challenge.
So early on in the company's journey, so you guys were selling, you were doing a lot of prospecting in different industries, different size companies. In the end, you focused on big logos, kind of we talked about land and expand, getting into a big company and then getting additional departments to come on board, and then maybe jump internationally, which I think it's a solid plan and a really good tactic and strategy. Given all of the data points that you have now on the go-to-market and the sales, like how would you kind of summarize your experiences there? What worked and what didn't?
The land and expand approach is an approach that I believe works very well in large enterprise. And what we've definitely seen is that when we can prove that we have a positive impact in one department, the champions we have there are more than happy to go to other departments, tell them about it, right, and spread the word. And in many cases, this happened much faster than we've initially thought. And suddenly we had a bunch of departments knocking our door saying, oh, we want to use it as well. So this works very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
What I personally had to learn is, I mean, looking back, it seems kind of clear, but in that moment, I didn't realize that the people we were talking to were people focused on training, on training success, and especially the way they measured success was listening to the users, right, to the team, and hearing, did you find this helpful, right? Did you use it, I don't know, X hours or so this week or month? And when it came to the point where we wanted to talk about very large deals, then suddenly the question arose, okay, what's the ROI? And I said, well, of course, I knew this conversation would happen at some point, right? But when we discussed earlier with that company, what are the results that we're aiming for in this pilot? It was all about, okay, we're going to use it, we're going to implement it, and then we ask everybody how they found it. And this was like kind of what we were optimizing for at that time, because this is what they wanted to see. But the person that set this goal for the pilot was not the person that had the budget in the end, right? And I think this was just a learning for us, that the person who decides what the outcome of the pilot should be the person that in the end also has the budget and can make a decision on how much to invest for a larger rollout.
Yeah.
So land and expand definitely works, but make sure to prove ROI from the beginning, because this is what people that have the budget will look for. There's like the saying that you should try to get like 1 or 2 customers really happy before you try to sell to everybody, right? Just to make sure that there's someone that really loves your product, and then from that you can derive what other kind of companies, probably be companies that will love your product the same way. So having 2 companies that love it is better than having 100 that just kind of like it. And I read this, and to me it made sense. So I think this is the beautiful thing when you're found, especially when you're part of a community like Ivor, you get access to people that have lots of experience, and at the same time have achieved stuff that I want to achieve too, right? With our company. And you think there's a right way, and you get advice from I remember I got advice from someone that I really respect. And then 2 days later, I talked to another person that achieved amazing stuff. And they said an entirely different thing, right? They said, no, do it a different way. Don't do that, what that guy said. And it's like, and then you're sitting there and you're like, okay, what the hell should I do? Right? And
there's usually more than one way to success, but and you're sort of colored by the biases of your own experience, for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have Kevin Kelly, so the sort of the iconic tech personality, founder of original Wired magazine, and written a lot of interesting books. And he has this thesis that all you need is 1,000 fans. This is kind of this idea that in social media, or if you have 1,000 people who like what you do, you should be able to monetize that to the point where you could replace your salary. And I think so my experiences when we built SumUp was we went out and we talked to hundreds of customers, and we gathered data from all of those hundreds of customers, and we used that with, compared to today, primitive technologies in terms of collating that data and understanding, what were the problems that were being encountered by small businesses doing less than $1 million in processing or turnover per year, And how could we help their businesses by enabling them with, you know, card payment solutions, etc. Like, was this something that they even felt was a problem for them? And in learning that by talking to lots of customers, you know, you get a big a better understanding, a more holistic understanding of the market that you're trying to approach. And when you're kind of you're testing the market, you're prospecting, you want to have a wide range of targets to see which ones are the ones that really give signal, and okay, here there's a problem, there's low hanging fruit, we can focus on that. I think that makes sense for SMEs, at least. That's what we did, right? But if you then look at, maybe you want to go after really big companies, and you get one or two that really, you know, love your product. Look at Legora, for example. Legora parked themselves inside of a Swedish law firm in Stockholm, and they were there for months, observing, looking, testing, getting feedback, understanding, right? So on the one hand, you could say, well, the danger there is that you have one customer who you design your whole product around that customer, and it turns out that customer was actually quite specific, even in their industry and their vertical. In which case you've just become an AI consultancy for that company. That is something really to be avoided. You got to watch out for that, because then you're a one customer pony. You're gonna have a hard time selling to others who want completely different features. But avoiding that, yeah, going in deep in a couple of companies, especially if you're selling to, you know, legal tech or law firms and big law, which Legora is doing, there it makes sense. So I think you have to sort of take the advice in the context within which it's given, and see, you know, does this apply to my ideal customer profile, or the one that I'm testing towards? Does it make sense there? Because both those strategies I just mentioned probably wouldn't be great if you switch them, right? And so you have to take that into account when you're hearing conflicting advice, unless they're literally telling you two completely different things for the exact same category, the exact same type of customer. Yeah, I think that is maybe something which can should be taken into account.
Yeah, I mean, everybody gives advice based on their own experiences, right? And based on what they've learned, and based on the situation they were in when they've experienced that. So, but still, I think it's just something that you need to learn when you're doing it for the first time, that there's no right way. In the end, you go from trying to look for the right answer to going out, talking to everybody, and trying to just collect data points, right? And then you collect the data points, you hear what everyone has to say, but you make your own decision. And
you've got your own voice at the end of the day, that you have to follow, your inner founder voice.
Yeah.
I mean, if Henry Ford had asked customers what they wanted, they would have asked for faster horses. Yeah. So, you know, you got to temper that with your own kind of problem-solving ability and innovation that you're bringing to this market.
Yeah.
Allegro, one of the topics that we discussed quite a bit, and I scolded you guys on a few occasions that you were hiring a little slow on the technical side. Hiring the right people. So I like to talk a lot about that topic.
I know.
Insofar as it's so important who you hire, right? That's right. So it's not a question of hiring faster or hiring more at the same time. I mean, you've got to balance what you're able to sustain in terms of your burn and your runway, of course, but getting the very best people that you can on board the team from very early on, I think is really important. And I'm getting more and more convinced of that as we see the capabilities of AI increasing at an ever faster rate, and the competition for really great people is hardening, because everybody knows the quality of the talent is gonna put my company ahead of the competition if I can hire better people. over time, that is going to be the case. So that also brings into question the whole topic of on location or hybrid, right? You guys, even though you were all in Germany, you were still split up in different places, meaning that you as a founding team started off hybrid from the beginning. And that was one of the choices you made. And that was one of the cultural artifacts of that strategy for your company. So can you walk us through and speak towards that decision? What were your thoughts around moving to the same place and being in the same office versus even as a founding team starting off in a remote model, meaning then that you could also go after the best talent, which can also then be remote, whether they're in the same country or somewhere else.
Yeah.
What was the thought process there?
Absolutely. So actually the founding team met in Berlin, right? So we did meet here in Berlin and got to meet each other in person, right? But just after a few weeks, it was clear that, so since we weren't based in Berlin, right? Jerome was based in Berlin, Tim was based in Aachen, and I was just about to move to South Germany, close to Munich. And of course, at some point, we needed to have like this discussion. Okay, should we keep it that way or not? And our founding team, we started as a team of two, right? It was Tim and me, and later Jerome joined. And we decided, okay, we're going to meet up. And this was especially during the time where Jerome came on board. And we said, okay, we'll meet up and we'll do like some kind of strategy workshop, right? The whole idea was we sit together in the room, we lock us in, and we discuss where we want to bring this company and try to think bigger. And we did this for like 3 days, and it was amazing, right? It worked really well. And we set some goals for ourselves, and everyone went back. I think everybody of us works in co-working spaces, right? Goes to their co-working space and is just focused and is like on a very operational level, not thinking too much about like strategic topics, but just trying to get stuff done. And I realized that this is, for us, a very good way to bring a lot of speed into the company. And we made it into a habit to depends, but just about 8 weeks, we meet each other somewhere. Try to meet in person. And again, for like 3 days, we log in and we just talk strategy. And in between these like strategy days, so we call them, whenever a topic comes up that feels too strategic and not too urgent, then we park it, we put on a list, and then we basically write down the agenda for these days. Mm-hmm. And for us, I'm really convinced that if you don't have a chance to see each other in person, like for us it was 8 weeks, for other teams it might be, 12 or 3, I don't know, then it will be much, much harder, right? Because you need a personal connection somehow. So in the founding team, I don't know, when the company grows bigger, it might be different, right? But I think this personal connection, the founding team, is very important. And it's much more than just talking strategy. It's also going to have lunch together, having a laugh, right? Maybe talk about some deeper stuff, whatever. It builds connection, human connection. It's really important. And I realized something that it feels weird when you try to do that in a virtual setting. It's much harder. And I think it's also a personality thing. For some founders, might not be a fan of the remote setting. And I think it's difficult if you have I think we've seen this during the Corona time, quite a bit of companies that used to be an in-office company and then turned remote. and then try to go back or whatever. I think this is really hard because it changes the culture quite a bit. But if you do it from the beginning, if you say we're a remote company, this is the way we work, and you build the culture that way, then it can work. And then you hire people who are fine with this and thrive in such a setting, and then it works. And for us, it was just, right, testing, iterating, and finding a way to make it work. I think there are great examples out there of companies that have become really large. And I think GitHub is completely remote. I think Zapier is completely remote.
Yeah, but
right?
they were built that way from the beginning.
Exactly.
And then it's possible.
Yeah,
I think as you said, hybrid. So I did hybrid with my last job, and I remember telling you guys about it, that this is the toughest of them all to try to achieve, because you inevitably get this us and them kind of thing between the ones that are remote and the ones that are in the office. Because as you say, you have a closer relationship with the people that you're seeing on a day-to-day basis. You're eating lunch, you're having a laugh, you get to know them better.
Yeah.
So I remember when I told you guys the first time, you guys should actually get away from talking about the operational stuff, go off on a weekend, and talk about the big picture stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that was really cool. And I love getting pictures from you guys every time. Like, hey, Peter, we're talking strategy, but which is great. And I think, you know, that for me showed that you guys were bonding as a team, and you were making the effort to have those offsites and have all of those important conversations and deepening that personal relationship between each other. So when you guys when you were hiring your first developer, so we were talking about, again, you got to hire the best person you possibly get, et cetera, given the criteria and the constraints, budget, and so on and so forth. So tell me a bit about, you know, your experience there from that process, and how that turned out.
Yeah, I am deeply convinced you will only build a great company if you're hiring the best people possible from the beginning on. Otherwise, it will not work. And it's like you said, it's tough to find them, right? I think the best people, they're not looking for a job, right? It's not like they're on the market and saying, oh, I don't know, applying everywhere and saying I need a job, whatever. No. They're working somewhere, and they're being paid very well in most cases, right? So yeah, it's hard to find them, and I would argue for us, this was clear from the beginning. The entire team was aligned. The people we are looking for have to be A players. They have to be absolutely outstanding. And in our case specifically, I mean, I'll take me as an example. I've studied at a business school, right? The university I went to does only teach business. There's no technical stuff taught there, right? Nothing. So there are no technical people there. So my network was very limited in terms of, like, I don't know, potential founding engineers or so. So we had to find other ways of finding them, of tapping into these groups, right? And we tried out a bunch of different stuff. And there was then a time where it seemed like everything was on fire, especially the product, right? And customers were waiting for features that we promised them, and I don't know, when you try to fix it on the left, then it broke on the right, right? And
classic stuff.
Yeah, it was quite tough. And then you suddenly get into this situation where you think, okay, maybe my bar is too high. I need someone right now, right? And I think this was
the temptation of the B player.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's especially during that time, I think the sessions we had with you were extremely valuable because you pushed us to not lower the bar. I think what happened to us was that at some point while we were looking for a founding engineer, I think what we did is we started looking for an engineer, and we skipped the founding part, right? And I think my opinion, there's a very clear difference. Not only like when they join, that it's like very early. I think the mindset they bring into the team is very different. A founding engineer treats the company's success as their own responsibility. That's how I would put it.
Yeah.
And there was a time where we just started looking for an engineer because it was so urgent. And we did that. We found a person, and I will not bash against that person. It was great, right? She did a good job. She did exactly what we hired her for. But we realized, okay, we hired an engineer, not a founding engineer. And that was a problem for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those early employees who come in, they are, especially on the technical side, I mean, they're so formative on the code base and the speed of development of the product, the quality as well, how quickly you respond to inevitable bugs and things. That I think if customers see that, you know, it's a team that's really on it, it's okay if there are bugs when they fix them really fast and they're responsive. I mean, this shows speed of execution, and also, you know, that you really value the customer, and that, you know, you do everything you can to pull out all the stops very quickly. And like you said, the founding engineer, it's obviously someone of seniority, but it's also someone with the mindset that, you know, we are taking responsibility. I care about this company, the mission, and everything. Like, it's almost like a founder, but they joined a little bit later. But their level of responsibility that they take has to be, you know, on the level of a founder.
Yeah.
And that's a founding engineer, and you've got to have one.
That's right. I totally agree. I think there is the skill part. Yes, they need to have some kind of seniority, right? And the right mindset. But what is just as important is that this is a person that you like, that you would like to, I don't know, have a Sunday brunch with. That's what we always say, right? This is something that I didn't prioritize so much in the early interviews that I did when looking for candidates. And now this is, I don't know, just extremely important, right? And whenever I have the feeling that this is a person that I would not have a Sunday brunch with, or meet for an evening beer or tea or whatever, right, to have a good conversation, then I would not hire that person, right? It's you want to be able to have deep discussions, laugh together, learn from each other, and it builds the culture. It's so important, and I think especially the first 5 to 10 people, I don't know, but definitely the first 5 people that you hire, they will be the foundation of the culture that you're building for the company.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, I mean, that personal chemistry of the team, those 5 to 10 people, if they are really, really a unit, their behaviors, their habits, their rituals, that is what becomes the company. And everyone else who comes in, you know, will join and learn and be a part of that.
Yeah.
Because if you don't set the company culture from the beginning, you're going to get a company culture, but it may not be the one that you like.
Yeah.
So Allegro, you've experienced something in your builder journey that happens 60% of the time, and it usually means the end of the company. I'm talking about the co-founder breakup here. And they seldom end on good terms. But in your case, maybe you can tell us a little bit about that story and how you went through that as a challenge, because that's usually a very tough situation to be in.
I didn't know it was 60%. it's interesting. So yeah, it's I would say probably one of the toughest things I've probably done so far. It's both like probably mainly a mental thing where it's quite hard to part ways with someone that you spend so much time with and build with. And the so how this happened was that we worked together and we realized that in the founding team we're pulling the company into different directions. And we are very lucky in a way that everyone in the team is a very good communicator. And I think actually this is a very underrated soft skill in founding teams. So with very good communication, we're able to talk about difficult topics very openly. And so I think everyone on the team felt it for some time that the company was being pulled into different direction. It slowed us down, right? So it slowed us down because we were building on different fronts. We were having longer discussions, and at some point we just needed to have the hard discussion on like, okay, let's sit down and try to find the root cause for why we're going in circles here and why we're not aligning. And yeah, and then basically in the end we realized, okay,
You want to build two separate companies.
Yeah,
or two different companies.
Different
right?
companies.
No.
Different companies. And so when we realized this, we needed to decide, okay, we can either do a pivot from what we're doing now to what this like other path and other plan was, or one needed to leave the company. And this was what we decided for, because we said in the team, look, there's a lot of data points that we're going in the right direction here. Yeah. And this is something that not many teams get to experience. Many build their product and they don't have any data points. And
data points being traction. Like exactly, you guys are making real money here.
Yeah, exactly. So signal that you're doing the right thing and that the market wants what you're building.
Yeah.
And we had this at the time. So we said, okay, this is something that we want to double down on. We want to continue in that direction. So that's what led to the co-founder breakup. I think where we got really fortunate is that there was never a point where we started like hating each other, right?
Yeah.
And we both sides were really trying to keep every conversation at a very professional level. And both sides, I think, realized that the whole topic was very sensible, and that as soon as one would get too emotional or, I don't know, get loud, right? This whole thing might lose balance, and then it suddenly is like a real personal conflict, and then it's something that could jeopardize the future of the company.
Yeah.
And we didn't want this. And so we were optimizing for a way out of this situation without ending up as a company that an investor wouldn't invest in, and that is just, I don't know, going from meeting with a lawyer to the next meeting with a lawyer. We didn't want this, right? Because it also means lots of distraction. We're not a large team yet, right? So every hour I spend into this is an hour I am not doing sales, and this is not good.
Yeah.
So, and I think if you don't have a personal conflict and you manage to communicate on eye level and try to be very professional and a lot of empathy and try to understand the other side, then it's possible to find a way out where it doesn't break the entire company.
Yeah. I mean, it's a regretful parting of ways, right?
Yeah.
In this case. And these things happen. Unfortunately, it's one of those things. And I think now that you have incredible advances happening in AI, where technologies are changing and becoming more capable at a very rapid pace, I imagine that the possibilities of pivoting become more frequent, or there are new paths opening up in front of each company, given that you just have more choices and more capable technology that can be deployed, solving your particular problem. So I imagine that this adapting to the market and again having these bigger strategy conversations more often are probably even more important than ever now, given that these are fast and exciting times with lots of opportunity, but you need to kind of have agreement on the North Star and that everyone wants to follow in that direction.
I totally agree. But like in such an early stage, it's that the founding team is running to the same direction. It's not optional, right? It's a must.
Yeah.
And yeah, we need to make sure that we're not going in circles.
Yeah. And you feel like you resolved the situation to the satisfaction of all, right? Which is very unusual.
Yeah, it is very unusual. That's true. And we definitely made that happen. And I'm very proud that we made it happen that way and that it worked out. And of course, I think it had a very big impact on the company. And in the end, it feels like hitting a switch and suddenly everything goes in the right direction again. And you feel less friction. People are running instead of going slow and being careful. So yeah, I think it was the right decision. Not a very pretty one, right? It's like, of course, it's still
it's a breakup. A breakup's
right?
a breakup.
It's never a nice thing, but
yeah. But now you're on the same page. The two co-founders that remained.
Yes.
You have a founding engineer now, which helps.
Absolutely.
And so now you guys are pushing forward. So Allegro, thank you so much for taking the time and coming and sharing your experiences and stories from building your company.
Thank you, Peter.
Really enjoyed having you here. So thank you everyone for joining us, and hope you got value out of this podcast episode. And looking forward to having you join us the next time. Thank you.
If this conversation resonated with you, there are 3 things you can do to support. First, you can subscribe. At whichever platform you're listening to this, there should be a subscribe button. It would mean the world if you subscribe. Secondly, you can share this with someone you believe would benefit from the content of this conversation. And thirdly, you can go to ivor.com/signals and stay up to date on all things Ivor by subscribing to our newsletter. Well, thank you very much for listening today, and see you at the next episode.